Okay, we are broadcasting. See attendees trickling in. Yes, the number is growing rapidly. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good middle of the night, if that is the situation for you. Welcome, everybody. I see the number rapidly growing here still, so I'm going to continue to welcome everybody as we have people connect. You are connecting to the AFS 2023 International Education Week webinar series. This is the last day of International Education Week and the last day of our webinar series. You have perhaps joined webinars previously during the week. For that, we thank you for your attendance and for your energy in supporting AFS events. And with that, we welcome you to this webinar. Educator Spotlight. We are happy to spotlight some very special guests here with us today, and we're here to hear thoughts and perspectives from teachers around the world. Let's get into it, because we have a lot to discuss and not very much time. So I am joined by three amazing teachers that are connected to us through the AFS network. They've graciously accepted this opportunity to have this discussion, and for that we are thankful. We're joined by María Alejandra Fumaroni. She's a teacher and global competency instructor based in Dublin, Ireland, but she is originally from Argentina. We're also joined by Ilan Enverga, a teacher and school leader from Lucena city in the Philippines. We're joined by Anjum Panna, a teacher and global competency trainer based in Mumbai, India. And my name is Dylan Peterson, and I am associated with AFS Intercultural Programs. I am a former teacher myself. I was a middle school science teacher, secondary school science teacher in the United States, as well as in Mozambique. So it's an honor and privilege to be here with these educators and to have this discussion. I'll give a more complete bio of an introduction for each of these educators before they speak. But first, just wanted to let you know who we are here with today. So just a little bit of the agenda here, what we will be discussing today. Briefly, I'd like to set the tone for what each educator will be speaking about. We've invited them to share their thoughts and perspectives on international education topics such as intercultural learning, global competency, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They have within that more or less a free reign to discuss whatever they'd like to. And so we'll hear from each of them. Before that, I'd like to just again set the tone, go over and just a brief review of just an educator's role in international education, and then global competency and what we mean by that, global competence education. We'll then hear from each of our panelists, and then we'll end with time for questions from the audience. And let's get into it. Okay, so very briefly, I thought it was important to just acknowledge the importance of educators in international education. Yes, of course, that the experience of studying abroad, going on an exchange, or going through intercultural learning yourself is absolutely critical to development and a wonderful experience for people that are able to have that. But alongside that, an educator is crucial in international education. And for that, we wanted to give this space and this opportunity for teachers to have this spotlight, because we all know that they deserve it. Just some brief thoughts and related to the role of educators in international education. Traveling and experiencing international education or exchange opportunities is not possible for all, just financially, commitment-wise to family or different obligations, it is not possible for all. However, teachers can bring the world and global perspective to the classroom. And for that, educators have a critical role in international education. They can practice celebrating diversity and differences in the classroom. They can model global citizenship for youth directly, and they can motivate and encourage students to pursue international education opportunities should they arise. So this just scratches the surface of how teachers can effectively be a part of international education. But it's well known that teacher attitudes, activities in and outside of classrooms impact students' global mindedness. And so it's critical that teachers realize this importance and then also embody a global competency to their students. And what do we mean by global competence education, global competency? Well, I'm going to share with you some slides that we like to present at different various AFS events or programs. We like to say we live in a VUCA world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, VUCA. And navigating our VUCA world requires knowing how to learn, work, and live together across differences. And taking action for a sustainable future and collective well-being. Governments, education experts, and employers increasingly recognize that fostering global competence through global competence education in classrooms as early as possible is one of the best ways to do it, to navigate this VUCA world. And it's a critical part of the strategy to reaching the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4. Education for sustainable development and global citizenship. And so what exactly is global competency? We like to define it as a combination of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values that educators can instill in their students. This isn't an all-encompassing list. There are many other aspects that could be included in this. But we like to stress these in particular, that if you can develop the skills of adaptability, critical thinking, self-awareness, the attitudes of valuing differences, being open-minded, and if you can instill a value of empathizing with others and communicating effectively, and then having general knowledge of, and awareness of global events around you and how to be a change maker, altogether, this forms a picture of what is global competence. And it is this that brings us together here today. We are joined by 3 amazing educators that in some way have made various efforts in this space to bring international education, to bring global competence to their students. And let's now cede the floor to them. Okay, first up, we have María. I've got a little bio here for her. We're very privileged to have all 3 of these guests here. But María Alejandra Fumaroni. María has 17 years of experience in the public and private sectors related to administration, government, and education. She holds a degree in business administration with specialization in university teaching in business and social sciences. She also holds a diploma in cultural management from the University of Business and Social Sciences in Buenos Aires. She is trained in teaching English as a foreign language and is CELTA certified as an English language teacher. She's originally from Argentina. She's currently based in Dublin, Ireland, teaching general English to adults. She's fully committed to the SDGs, a volunteer with the World Council of Intercultural and Global Competencies, and a volunteer leading local efforts to train others in global competencies in Dublin. She is a polyglot, speaks English, Portuguese, and Arabic, alongside her mother tongue, which is Spanish. She has taken part in many poetry competitions, having some of her poems published, and she has contributed to a book about intercultural competencies another book which is going to be sent to the moon called Lunar Codex Expedition. I really like that last one. Maria, the floor is yours. Oh, Maria, you're still muted, just to let you know. Maria, unfortunately, I cannot hear you, and your screen is still loading. Okay,
hear me properly?
Now it's working.
Yeah?
It's working. Yeah.
Lovely. Can you see the screen as well? Lovely.
Yes. Good to go. All right.
Perfect. Lovely. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you, Dylan, for your introduction. I'm from Argentina, but my great-grandparents from my mother's side were from Lebanon, and they fled to Argentina in 1900 seeking new opportunities. Here you can see the map from Argentina and the map where Lebanon is. Let me start with a funny story that happened to me in 2010. I could say it was when I started to be more aware of multicultural and globalized world. By the way, as Dylan mentioned, my story is published in the book that you can see, Developing Intercultural Competence in Higher Education. It was my first time that I flew. I moved to the UK to improve my English language and to get to know a new country, a new culture as well. And it was the first time that I shared a classroom with a student for different background, Bangladesh, Kuwait, Poland, Italy, just to name a few. And in my desire to be kind, I greet everyone with a kiss, men and women. Yep, and I consider it appropriate and normal, but I had made a huge misstep, especially with the men from the Middle East. And then I talked to my teacher, and she told me about their culture and their customs. So that's why I created an awkward moment. And that's why I consider that the cultural competence education is very relevant nowadays, more nowadays. This is a little bit about me. At the beginning, I was teaching at university. I used to follow my teacher's experience and using a lot of hand-on materials, especially with situations around the world, to find a solution when we were working with solving problems, activities. At that moment, I decided to visit India and Nepal, and one of my co-workers had been there too. And I was able to share with other of my colleagues, other of my teachers, my experience about South Africa that I visited. And he used one of the name of Nelson Mandela, Madiba, to name his company as well. So at the school, I didn't have too much freedom to use those kind of materials or to modify the curriculum, such as beyond news. But then when I become a private teacher, fortunately, I've been more aware of our work views. And after having shaped my intercultural understanding and self-reflected about my experiences, I use different materials. I introduce cultural knowledge, costumes, background, and behavior expected from different cultures in other students. So to have flexibility to address different situations that involve people from different backgrounds and different countries. And nowadays I am based in Dublin, where I can teach my students, especially SDGs, the SDGs. If you are considering design your lesson with global competence education, why? I would say this since ancient time. I mentioned my Greek grandparents, so imagine how many times ago people have been moving to different places around the globe, seeking new opportunities, better quality of education, or unfortunately fled their homelands due to well-founded fears of violence or conflict. So we are now interconnected, and we have to use our diversity. We have to take advantage of our diversity in order to attain and advance our goals, the SDG goals, and better understand how a student impact the world around. This is one of the lessons, the whiteboard that I use with my classroom, with my class. So now, how can we teachers put this into practice? How can we put the global competence education in their curriculum? I could say, as when I teach pronunciation, I don't teach pronunciation isolated. I always try to teach pronunciation when we are reading, when we learn grammar. So the same with the cultural competence education. We have to introduce them and become co-learners with our students, because we are part of the global network. So where success requires navigating through widely different cultural realities. This is word from Eric Meyer. So, for example, here you can see these are my students from Brazil and Turkey, and I was introducing the SDG with a poster that we can see on the wall through different short videos about different goals, and they had to choose one in order to create a advocacy campaign. So this is one of the things. Then we can take advantage of celebration like Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, New Year, Halloween. So, and we can do in advance some research so we can integrate different countries and different costumes during this festival, during these celebrations. Also about food, we can talk about different food around the world, or for example, following news stories around the world, so we can analyze what's happening in that country, why, and also reading books from different genres and different authors as well, listening to songs, and not just listening and let's say complete the gaps, but also analyzing the author, country, the customs, analyzing the song, so we can learn beyond the song. And also introducing the SDGs, and we can think about how to address those problems, and you will get impressed, because sometimes we underestimate the student, but they know a lot, and we should be co-learners with them. So how to align the global competence education with the standard curriculum and not feel overloaded So my suggestion here, do not feel overwhelmed. I mean, if you already have the program to teach for the term, you can, as I mentioned earlier, do some research beforehand, and you can introduce the topic using different materials from around the world. So you can include them in your lesson. You don't need to change the lesson, but you can include them. So different viewpoints and cultures, just wearing different lenses, so you can see the same topic but from different viewpoints. Making the class student center, so the student know a lot, the student want to know, so we need to let the student do some research about the different topics. So they can bring experiences for TV shows, for music, from films. This is what happened to me, as for example, and they are from different countries and they know a lot of things that I don't know. So I take from them all the knowledge. For example, we are close to Christmas. Do you know how people around the world celebrate Christmas? So they can do some research about that, and they can use their mobile phone. That sometimes is a problem because they use their mobile phone but not to study. And for example, choose one country and do some research. Are there countries that do not celebrate Christmas? So you know that you don't have to take for granted that every people and around the world the festivals or celebration are the same. So yeah, the takeaways, all of us at least have different backgrounds or experiences or challenges to face. We are all interconnected face to face or through internet in a virtual way like today. Cultural and individual differences and wrap up the impact in our perceptions. So many times we stereotype. And as a teacher, we should guide our students to enhance their effectiveness in dealing with them. And the key, as Dylan mentioned as well as the beginning, is to empathize with others. So yeah, and the resources that I use, AFS, and the book that developed in intercultural competence, where my story is written there, and Eddie Mayer, the cultural map as well. So we are going to have question at the end. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. No, really appreciate you sharing that experience and your experience. And Ilan beat me to it in the chat here. What really stood out to me was your comment that teachers should be co-learners with their students. And I couldn't agree more. I think when a teacher approaches a classroom with the mindset that they are the objective, right? They have reached a certain point that students should strive for. That right there creates a power dynamic imbalance that is not aligned with global competence education. And so to constantly be a learner with the students, they see that and they appreciate that. And yeah, well, thank you so much, Maria. And I just want to give acknowledge to everybody in the chat. I apologize in the beginning, I didn't have it set up so everybody could chat, but now everybody is very active there. Welcome to everybody from all around the world. We continue to welcome you to comment there in the chat. And I'd like to just point out that if you would like to have a question for the panelists at the end of the session, please use the Q&A function for that. That will help me notice that, have it stand out a little bit more. Okay, well, we will move on here and on to our next panelist. Well, we are privileged here today to be joined by Ilan Enverga, who is a teacher and school leader in Lucena City in the Philippines. Ilan Enverga is a K-12 educator and SDG advocate for the Philippines. He works professionally as a teacher and school leader at the International School for Better Beginnings in Lucena City. where he pioneered a youth-led education innovation program that champions education for sustainable development and global citizenship. Ilan has presented his program to education ministries regionally and internationally and was awarded the National Sustainability Leadership Award in Education. As a member of UNESCO's SDG4 Youth and Student Network, he was part of the development and launch for the Youth Declaration for Transforming Education and its ongoing follow-up initiatives. At his first attendance of the AFS Youth Assembly this year, he participated in the Global Educators Workshop, where he was the youth speaker on the panel on solidarity for SDG 4. And he was awarded second place for the AFS Award for Young Global Citizens. So goes without saying, we are privileged to be here with Ilan. Thank you for being here, and I'll pass over to you.
Thank you so much, Dylan. And I know we've heard it a few times, but good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and happy International Education Week, everyone. I believe everyone here is a teacher, so just wanted to say, I hope you're all taking care of yourselves because we know teachers work extremely hard, and we try to make sure we're all keeping track of our health and making sure we're doing okay. And if not, do what you need to do to take care of yourselves, because you can't be an effective teacher if you don't first take care of ourselves. So a quick shout out to all of you teachers. As Dylan kind of generally introduced, I wear a few hats. And I do work in a lot of the space of preschool, primary, or elementary and secondary or middle school and high school, depending on where you're from. I know we have different names for those age groups, but I work more in the K-12 world and absolutely love it and enjoy what we've created, especially in the last few years. And I'm so excited to share that creation with you today. And I'll already set up the disclaimer that I don't have much time to talk about this, and I'm used to talking about this for like hours because I am a teacher trainer, and I do try to help as many teachers and even other schools to sort of bring in global citizenship and education for sustainable development into their lessons. So if you have any questions, please feel free to to type it in the chat, and I'll try to address them later on. So just that disclaimer. So I know Dylan gave us a bit of context, but I just wanted to reference two documents really quickly that I thought were so important to today's discussion. One is a report called What Young People Want, and it was just launched or released this year, just I think in August. And it surveyed 1.8 billion young people aged 10 to 24 years old, so, kids up to youth. And it was a strong statement that many young people are sort of like desperate for an education system that teaches them how to prepare for future challenges and to deal with the world that they're going to inherit. And the second document that was also mentioned is a document that I've had the honor of helping develop, which is also a landmark document. It's the first of its kind. It's the first document where young people all over the world. So this was co-written, co-consulted by with almost 500,000 young people from over 170 countries, with a really intensive consultation process that was launched at just 1 year ago, last year's Transforming Education Summit, that really speaks to what young people really are sort of urgently asking for when it comes to the schools and the education systems that they need today for their future. So a common thread is that young people are asking for the competencies to deal with as Dylan mentioned in the slides earlier, this sort of world that is VUCA, and just how to deal with all of these. Our world is just filled with so many social and systemic problems, from climate change to conflicts to wars. There's a lot for young people to sort of deal with, and if you think about as our population grows and how these will sort of compound and intensify as these young people reach their adulthood and so on, they really need to be given and trained and taught the skills, the knowledge, the attitudes, and the values to really take charge of the solutions that we need for the future. So that's really where a lot of the starting point came from for my program, and I'll try to introduce it and explain it as visually as possible, just to lessen my words. But I love pictures. I'm a visual learner, so hopefully these pictures help you. So I designed and created and implemented this program a few years ago, and it's called Youth for Better. And not only is it about raising awareness about the SDGs in the schools, in our education systems, it's going beyond awareness and focusing more or ensuring we reach the point of building empathy and more so building agency among K to 12 students, so that they're not just aware of the problems of the world, they are skilled, knowledgeable, and have the right attitude and mindset to actually create and design their own solutions for those problems that are happening in their community, obviously connected to global problems. So if you can see on the slide, this is sort of our vision, right? And this is a reminder for what teachers also have to ask themselves. So as teachers, we have to ask ourselves, what is today's lesson going to lead? Like, how is it going to help this child or this student's future? What is the point of today's lesson? What is the point of teaching? What is the point of schools? So it's really about intentionality and purpose and asking the why. It's a hard question to answer, but for us as a school, we thought very deeply and realized that this was the clearest vision we had for the future, and that we really needed to prepare these kids and teenagers for the life and for the work that would take charge of the solutions that we need to these massive global problems that we have on our plate. So we are basically, using simple or complex lessons and subject areas like math, English, science, and so on, using just these normal everyday academic areas or subject areas to build the competencies for students to end up becoming solar power engineers, to becoming climate change environmental psychologists, or social entrepreneurs. So we are really focused and we're very clear on what we're expecting from the way we teach as teachers. And the way we do this is in a very experiential way. And you'll see that in the next few slides and next few pictures. Because I'm a big believer in that a lot of what we learn is learned not from what we read, but from what we experience and what we live, what activates all of our senses and, really creates core parts of our being. And I really believe experiences do that. So what we do is we use our academic subject areas to simultaneously give real world opportunities for students to volunteer, to support nation building, to actually do something real to help someone in their real community. And what's really unique about our program is that this exists not in one classroom, not done by one teacher. This is done by our entire faculty from pre-primary all the way up to high school. So every single grade level, every single subject area is helping these students not just know what the SDGs are, but how to take action for them. And if you can see on the slide, as you progress through the grade levels, you can actually see some of the larger social issues that they tackle in each grade level. This is before I proceed to the next slides, this is like the simplest formula that we kind of built. And it really starts with teachers. I think Dylan mentioned earlier or quoted earlier that teachers have this massive impact on the global mindedness of students. And that's why this program, the number one, the key to actually activating this, this really transformative way of teaching is by equipping and building capacity of teachers. So that was step one. And then after these teachers were trained, these teachers then went to their classrooms and taught these, same subjects, but in a contextualized way, contextualized to, these real world issues. And then the assignments, the projects, these were happening with real world direct contact with community partners. So these are the teachers that I work with. We love the SDGs. These are some of the students that we have. They're not shy about, speaking up for what they believe is right and to give comments on what's happening in the real world. And these are just a few examples of some of the works that our students are given the responsibility. They're given the leadership. They're really given ownership of, really creating positive change in their community. So it's really exciting. It's honestly been so gratifying to see the impact that these students have made in the community. And just to sum it up, these are numbers based on one academic year. So in one academic year, our students organize over 100 initiatives supporting their direct community, helping all sorts of walks of life, from Indigenous people to people living below the poverty line, people with disabilities, like the list goes on. And on average, each year, we are able to help over 7,000 people, achieving all 17 SDGs if you sort of go across the K-12 spectrum. And what's really cool is we've seen students actually more engaged, doing better in classes, because they finally realize that what they're learning in school is actually making a direct impact. And we're sort of trying to build this mindset where the more you study and the more you know, the more you can help others. And that's a sort of mindset that we're really, it's our philosophy. Our program has been recognized regionally, nationally, and internationally. It's been a really exciting road for us. And just to give the teachers here some tips. So one thing you can easily do is look at your lesson plan and contextualize it to a real world problem or a real world advocacy. Second is bridge your classroom to real world community partners. And we've successfully done this, and it's just changed the way students have learned and the way teachers teach. And lastly, we got to help the teachers. So anything you can do to, provide resources or share resources or collaborate on works, and also, join these types of trainings that AFS provides. Like, these are essential. I believe teachers are the key and step one. And it's just part of my current goal is to help as many teachers and schools as possible. So thank you, AFS, for this opportunity. But if you want to stay connected with me, feel free to just send me an email or scan this QR code, because it's sort of our goal to just make sure that what we're doing is not a secret, and that as many teachers and schools are, teaching global citizenship, global competencies, and the SDGs, because if we really look at it, teachers have the most powerful job in the world, and that is to literally change the way people think all over. And we really need people to start thinking in ways that are hopeful, optimistic, and in this sort of change-making mindset. So thank you again for your time, everyone. And I'll pass the floor back to Dylan. Thank you.
Wow. That is my first time hearing you give kind of your complete presentation. I know that was rushed, and normally you would have much more time to go into detail. So I appreciate the brevity. And I think I noticed that the chat was before that, was people were introducing themselves, and then it was just kind of quiet and lots of reactions. So I think people were captivated by your presentation, and I know I was. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. That's an amazing program that you have. And one thing that really stood out was just what you said about building agency and making students feel like they are capable and powerful and able to address these global issues in their local community. And that there were so many nuggets that I think you could take from what you said. But for me, it was that building agency. And well, thank you, Ilan. I really appreciate it. We, in this webinar format, are unfortunately pressed for time, so we will continue on. We are going to continue to our next amazing speaker. Anjum Panna is a teacher and global competency trainer based in Mumbai, India. And I'll read a little bit about her just to give you a little bit of an introduction. Anjum Panna is a content writer by profession, an educational trainer by skill, and a storyteller by passion. Anjum is an ex-radio professional and currently works as a collaboration coordinator, peace educator, global competency trainer with a school in Mumbai. She engages in special sessions for learners ages 6 to 16 on various topics like accepting diversity, global citizenship, and competency, and interactive storytelling with an intent to inspire young changemakers. She earned the AFS Global Competence Certificate in 2020, participated in the AFS Effect Plus for the Classroom program, and likes to avail every opportunity that gives her a chance to engage in a dialogue with people who think, who live, think, love, and express differently than herself. She believes in upgrading her understanding and learning of the world, for which she continues to sign up for learning opportunities, for example, with UNESCO APCEIU, and enjoys facilitating Effect Plus and Global Pathways for Classroom Training for students and teachers, respectively. Her newfound interest involves using media and films as a tool for globally competent teaching, and her school recently received an award for the SEMA Academy SDG Challenge from UNESCO APCEIU. So another amazing introduction. We're privileged to have Anjum here with us, and Anjum, I'll pass to you.
Thank you, Dylan. So hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. It is so wonderful to see people joining in from different parts of the world and people who are aiming at achieving the same thing, aiming at achieving change that can be initiated from the classroom. How beautiful is that? But, there are only two ingredients to bring about a change. One, the first is a teacher who says that I can. And secondly, the same teacher who has the courage to turn that belief into action. And I think that this is what will help us in doing that is GSET. But, the world of a student is confined to a home and a school. Whatever worldview they create is from the experiences that they gather from these two places. Once when there was an inspection at school, the education inspector asked the students, so do you like coming to school? The children said, oh, yes, we love coming to school. Okay, so do you like going home from school? They said, oh, yes, we're super excited. The education inspector thought, oh, it's too good to be true. Then is there something that you don't like? The children said, yes, something that happens between coming and going. And I think that making this 6 hours or 7 hours a delightful experience, the onus is on we, the teachers. But how to do that is by including GSET into the curriculum. Now, when we hear the word GSET, for the teachers who are new to it, or for the teachers who are new to the experience of teaching or the fraternity of teaching, we will wonder that what GSET is. So I think that all of us present here will agree that we don't only want to create learned intellect individuals. We want to create individuals who can feel, think, act, and identify their pain points and identify ways in which they can contribute towards making this world a better place. And this is something that GSET helps us achieve. This is just a very wonderful definition that I came across through one of my trainings of UNESCO. This is how UNESCO describes it. But what are the key issue areas of GSET? So one is definitely human rights, environmental sustainability, diversity, equity, inclusion. And of course, we have public health. But what are the domains of GSET that will allow us to do that? The very first is behavioral. So the conduct of the students, the performance, the practical application, because the people who will be solving world crisis 20 years from now are sitting in our classrooms today. So the second domain is cognitive, because today just training them to think is not enough. Today, what we need is metacognition, the ability to think about thinking. That is what we should be training our students into. The ability to examine issues through various perspectives, as my co-educator, as my fellow speaker here, María, suggested, that we should be able to look at problems through different lenses. So the ability to examine those issues, of course, their knowledge and thinking skills. Are they able to reason? Are they able to think about why, how Ilan just mentioned? And then lastly, the most important, socio-emotional aspect, which talks about their attitudes, their values, empathy, respect for self and others, and the 5 major strands of self, that is self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. Are they able to make a decision, and how is it affecting their relationships? Because GSAT is not only about having intellectual abilities, but being able to apply whatever you have learned in the classroom. So what are the things that all of us already have? All of us have lesson plans, we've got assignments, we've got stakeholders, which includes the people from the community, our parents, our students, of course, and assessments. These are the things that we already have. But then we also have wands that we can use to amplify the tools that we already have. And these wands are the SDGs: the cell, the films, skills, and collaboration. Here, if I talk about lesson plans, we all focus on, dividing it into parts. So having an objective, having a methodology, and having an outcome. But the most crucial part is the learning objective and the learning outcome. What is something that I want to teach? And after teaching this lesson, what do I want my students to be able to do? What do I want them to empower with? Is it a particular skill? Is it a particular awareness about a particular SDG? What is it I want my students to achieve? Assignments. I think all of us here will agree that we do not want our students to prepare huge dioramas anymore. Let us indulge them in research projects. Let us allow them to read. Let us allow them to learn from their peers. And then think, pair, share activity through which they learn to accept views of others. As stakeholders, inclusion of stakeholders, involvement of stakeholders is very, very crucial, because I think that the success of any institution is based on a very strong tripod of a teacher, student, and a parent. When this tripod is strong, we'll be able to achieve great things. And finally, assessments. Who says that we are supposed to grade them only on the basis of their academic achievements? While they are doing a group activity, as teachers, can we not observe them and see that, are they listening to their peers? Can't we observe them and see that, are they listening to respond, or are they listening to understand? Can't we see that a person who is usually a speaker, is he able to take a back seat so that others can speak? Can we not assess them based on what we observe, how they are conducting the group activities in class? So yes, of course, using these wands will really help us do all of this. Now I'm just going to, rush through some activities that we have been doing in school very successfully, and that has really helped us achieve a lot of, observe a lot of competencies being developed in our students through this activity. Now, a very small thing that we ask our students to prepare a green calendar. Our students did that, but everything was brainstormed by the students. Now, when this was happening, we saw that the class teacher was able to learn about the students from the students. She was actually able to identify that what is it that really matters to them. It is for them, but are we listening enough? But these kind of activities really helped us learn more about our own learners. a fun activity where this was suggested by a girl that can we get in our lunch boxes leftovers from the previous day. And she was sad thinking that she'll be the only one bringing in leftovers. But the next day, when children opened their lunch boxes, there were items made from the previous day's leftover. And the kind of oneness that it brought in the class, the girls started to believe, oh my God, I'm not the only one. All my friends, their mothers improvise on the leftovers. So, this brought about a sense of friendship, a sense of oneness within the class. Then we have green math, wherein resources are used from the school surroundings and premises so that the learners learn how to give back more to nature than what we take. From soil to soul, again, one of the research activities, research assignments that was given to our students, and this was done as a part of their science lesson when they were doing cause and effect. And the teacher said that, rather than doing engaging them directly into the lesson, why not I give them a research? And they researched on that how fast fashion affects gender equality and peace. And this is the entire map that they made together as a collaborative activity. Then, thoughtfully getting creative, children identify that what are the places around in their vicinity or which are not inclusive enough, and they created diagrams, they created drawings through which they tried to show that how can these spaces be made more inclusive. Then, of course, this is the involvement of the community, wherein experts came, taught my students how to repair a leaking tap. But after that, they practiced it and they went into the slum areas where people are very adamant on not getting the leaking taps repaired because there's a cost attached to it. Every time a plumber comes, they have to pay them. So my students went to the slum areas and they taught the people of the slum areas how to prepare leaking taps by themselves. So this really gave them a sense that I can do things. There are ways in which I can contribute. Then, of course, the involvement of the community, as I said before, wherein the mothers, the grandmothers came and they baked the Indian bread since we are celebrating the millet year. And then we introduced a cell kit. So a cell kit which enables the students to engage in different things like using a magnifying glass, looking at nature from a close view, having dominoes or blocks. This really helps them reflect on their actions. So this is just a silent time that a child takes whenever he is feeling a lot of overwhelming emotions. So this is what we recently introduced in our school. But films is something that have a great power. And this I've recently experienced when I started using the SEMA Academy films. Many films are curated by APSI UNESCO, and there are films for every SDG. Now, when children engage in this, post the film screening, when there are discussions, we open the discussions for questions that do not have a right or a wrong answer. There are possible answers. Now, when there is a possibility for a child to give possible answers, more children open up. So more children get a chance to voice out their opinions, which is required in today's world. And of course, collaborations. I think with collaborations, the children realize what the true story is. They start discovering their own implicit and explicit biases. They start owning up to the limited knowledge that they have had and how to further learn more about the world. And I think that this has helped a lot because my students have stopped being prey to the dangers of a single story. They have started learning more about the world that they are coming in contact with. And, as Dylan mentioned before, that it is not possible for everyone to travel. So in a class, if we allow our experiences of travel, if we allow our worldview and make it a point of reference that allows them to alter their own worldview, I think our classrooms will be a much better, much lovelier place. And, here, through doing this, I think we can fill our classrooms with world-mindedness. I came across this term the very first time through one of my favorite books, which is named If the World Were a Village. So you're filling the classroom with a spirit of world-mindedness, which is an approach, which is an attitude, and an awareness that I share this world with others who think, love, live, pray, and express differently than myself. And then developing a feeling of oneness that will help me achieve peace. Even in the SDG, I think that if you are able to achieve all the SDGs, the eventual is goal number 16, that is peace. But the goal which has to initiate it is goal number 4, that is quality education. I think if we are able to do that, we will be able to build a better world from the classrooms. And with this, I leave you here with a few lines from from a very special song that touches me in a special way every time I listen to it. So, there is just one moon and a golden sun, and a smile means friendship to everyone. Though the mountains divide and the oceans are wide, it's a small world after all. So yes, it's a small world, but we as teachers have the power to bring in that big wild world into our classrooms. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Dylan, for this time.
Wow, Anjum. Well, I'm getting a little emotional hearing you sing that. I can tell while you're an ex-radio professional, you're speaking. Just but that came across. Thank you so much for sharing. That was wonderful. Just something that stood out to me was hearing you say, how can we make this delightful? How can we make this enjoyable for teachers? And that's something I think that we should focus on more. Like how can global competency education be tied to making this experience more enjoyable for teachers as well? And then just hearing you, and then one last thing that I also thought was very interesting was having a report card of skills and attitudes related to global competency. That's a very interesting concept, to have students evaluated based on personality traits and give feedback on that. That's very interesting. I'd love to learn more. But we are, of course, now almost up on the allotted time. I'm going to tell everybody right now we will go a little bit over. If people need to leave, of course, you are welcome. But I would like to actually have a bit of a discussion. And I don't think it would be appropriate to just end the session right now. I think everybody wants to ask things. So once again, thank you to all three of you for sharing just your experience and how you bring global competency education into your profession. I'd like to just focus on the teachers who we have here in the audience here today, and I was trying to think of like what questions could be most relevant to them and to various educators around the world. And so I thought I'd pose this question to start. Would be how can teachers that are in under-resourced classrooms around the world, how can teachers with large numbers of students, I'm just, for example, thinking of my experience teaching in Mozambique, all I had was a piece of chalk and I had 70 students in my room. Like that is a bit of an extreme example, but with teachers that have very little materials or lots of students, how can those teachers begin to effectively introduce these concepts? And so I'll open the floor to anybody that feels like you'd like to respond, but curious, how can teachers, with not much to offer to begin with, think about this?
Can I take
Go
that
right ahead,
question? Yes. So I think firstly, identifying student leaders, as Ilan also mentioned. So once we are able to identify student leaders, they become the one who will be able to inspire others. Secondly, peer learning does a lot good. And there are examples across the world wherein the youth can be, can be someone who can inspire the students in your class. So if you can tell them stories from around the world, what have you done? And I think lastly, having dialogue oriented classrooms. I don't think that your teaching is enough if your teachings are not traveling from the classrooms to the corridors. The students should be talking about what the teacher taught during the recess. They should be adding more examples to it. When the students are able to do that, that is when real learning has happened. Because I think gone are the days when a teacher teaches. It is the student who learns. So, it is, as Ilan mentioned, it is about the why and the how that is most important. So having dialogue-oriented classrooms is something that can do wonders. And of course, we all know about, the teacher who really made a difference to a bunch of students. I think her name was Erin Rule. That how, when the world thought that these students are just going to be criminals, they did wonderful things in their lives. So I think with love, a lot can change, the chemistry between a teacher and a learner. Yes.
No, that's great. Yeah, I really liked what you said about dialogue and how that absolutely, that is a resource available to anyone, any teacher anywhere. You can, of course, dialogue is always an option, always a tool to have, and how you engage with your students in that way. Yeah, thank you, Anjum.
Yeah, I
Maria,
think
so
that
you're unmuted, yeah.
as she mentioned, yeah, thank you. As storytellings as well, and working in groups and sharing different stories, they can co-learn. This is very important. The sharing stories, if they are from the same country, but maybe they are from different cities, or maybe they know about friends or films, so they can bring to the classroom knowledge and they can learn. We have to take advantage of them because, as she mentioned, they will let us know their needs. So yeah, I think storytelling and sharing, is the best way.
Yeah, story circles. I mean, it's a great activity, a great resource, structuring exactly how the students will approach it, and absolutely kind of building on what Anjum said, just dialogue and conversation. That is a resource to be utilized, and how can it be thought of in a way to lead into these discussions related to global competency and learning about different cultures. Ilan, I don't know if you'd like to respond to this question at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with Anjum and Maria so far, and absolutely agree that it's a very big problem in education systems that they're really underfinanced, understaffed, and the list goes on. But that's why this question is so important to address. I'll just focus on one point and one answer, and that is just that I'm a firm believer of how everyone should have this mindset of do what you can with what you have. Everyone is sort of capable, no matter your background or means. You have abilities that you can use, and as a teacher, I think when it comes to GCED or global competence education, I think a lot of it comes to your intentions as a teacher and why you're teaching something, and that is free. Just changing your mindset as a teacher does not really require resources. It's your personal choice or decision whether you want to adjust the way you want to start teaching your students. So I think when it comes to this specific topic of this specific event, I think it's all about just transforming your mindset and the way you teach, and that will transform what happens inside the classroom and how students learn.
Thank you, Ilan. Yeah, well, thank you all for that question. We are, of course, everybody already over time. If you do need to leave, you're welcome to, but I want to keep this conversation going a little bit longer. I see there have been a few questions in the Q&A, and I want to try and wrap them all together and tie it into a theme that I heard all of you talk about, which was community and connecting the classroom to places, organizations, or people outside of the classroom. And one of the questions here was, have there been challenges related to implementing this? How did you overcome those challenges? And so perhaps maybe a difficult topic to keep short, but how would you best recommend to teachers to begin building those community relationships to tie in these various activities and topics? Ilan.
Yeah, I'm happy to get started. And you're right, I could talk about this for hours, but I will keep it short. And that is by saying, number one, start simple, like tap into your strong ties in your network, like as simple as, having parents with certain industry or jobs as certain, as helpful backgrounds to your subject or your topic for that lesson. Talking to other teachers, talking to maybe alumni of your school. Like there are many sort of places and opportunities to sort of like bridge your teaching to what's happening outside of the school. And we really have to emphasize why we have to do this. And it's because for the past few decades, classrooms have really just been stuck inside those four walls. And, because we've been thinking and teaching in silos apart from the world, students when they graduate are not able to actually thrive and live in this world. So we really have to prioritize. This. Besides tapping into your direct or immediate contacts, I've found from our experiences over the past few years when we've just, cold emailed or just like randomly tried to send contact or communication or correspondence to, people we would never have thought would reply back, people like government officials, people like really like big NGOs and big companies. We found that sustainability and global citizenship are trending. And a lot of people in this sort of sphere or in this like sort of space are so happy to help one another. Whenever someone hears, about the SDGs, they're like, oh my gosh, how do you know about the SDGs? I barely know anyone who knows about the SDGs. Like these people find each other and they really want to help one another. So I found that people want to help people who want to help. So I think just try to reach out, and what's the worst that can happen, right? So just try, I think, is my last thing.
I like that. Just, yeah, what's the worst that could happen, right? I mean, the worst is that you are where you started, right? Just without a community relationship, right? Anjum, I saw you on mute. If you wanted to add, sorry. Put you on the spot if you're
No,
not
I
ready.
think, Ilan has actually covered it all. And what's the harm in asking? And I think that when you ask, you're only spreading more awareness about it. And when the students actually start working towards it, or when people start knowing about it, they actually start to understand the interconnectedness between every SDG. So none of the SDGs can be worked on in isolation. So you slowly start to unfold the mysteries of, oh my God, how do I lead to peace? How can like no poverty lead to peace once I accomplish that? And I think that is the beauty of it. But as I said, in my presentation, that it has to start with goal number 4. That is the most essential one. It has to, we have to catch them early, and we have to make that difference in their head and the heart so that they work with their hands in the future.
Great. Maria, I'm not sure if you have anything to add. Of course, don't have to,
Yeah.
given that the answers are often similar, but it sounds like you do. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, what's happened to me when I show the student the short videos about the SDG, as Anjum mentioned, with the CIMA project, they started to think what's happening in their countries, and they brought a lot of problems that they face in their countries as well. And for me, it was wonderful because they were aware of the situations. And then we started talking about the situation here where we are living right now, and how we can help people from our side as a student, as a friend, as a neighbors. So this is for me the most powerful things, when we can find that we can do something. I mean, we maybe cannot reach the government, we cannot do big things, but at least we can contribute and cooperate and collaborate each other. And if you don't have, depend on the area, if you don't have a internet, or if you don't have those resources, we can tell stories, I mean, about those situations, and the student will start thinking about what happened to them or what happened in their communities as well, and think that everything that we can do will be a lot. I mean, even though this is just a small thing, or yeah, we could start changing the world. It's not a utopia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you all. I think hopefully one thing that I'm getting from all of you is just try something. Like don't think like you have to go straight to like Ilan's level of a fully developed program for each grade. Like that took a lot of time and dedication, I'm sure, Ilan, and a lot of resources. And so start where you can. Start, like, if you're an individual teacher in a school and you're perhaps the only one thinking about this type of thing and you want to know how to continue, yeah, start small. Like, who do you know that is in a profession that could be related to something that you're teaching about? And so, yeah, thank you all for that response. And I've noticed that the number of participants still in attendance have stayed the same. So I think people are really enjoying this conversation. I think we should do one more question. I know we're over time, but I want to do one more question. And so thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. Once again, you're welcome to leave, of course. But I'd like to just end on a question related to students, right? And when we talk about these global issues, in particular, I'm thinking of climate change, and we try to bridge connection to topics we're educating about, and global issues. It can be overwhelming, and sometimes students are depressed or sad to like learn about just the state of the world, and they think that it's learning or becoming aware of these topics can not always be a positive experience for students, right? And so I thought we would have the last question of just any thoughts or recommendations you have for teachers in terms of bridging the gap between these really serious, heavy topics and creating a positive outlook that these students would have on these topics, or agency, like you had mentioned, Ilan, that they can actually do something. Yeah. That's a big question. So I'll let you think about it here.
Dylan, I would like to mention here. So, when we do community activities or when we do class activities, this is a way of telling our students that you can always start small. It need not be big things. Just do small things consistently, and then you will see the results. Also, making the children believe that, yes, they are contributing towards the change in the world. They are contributing towards maintaining the ecological balance. So, but then they need to be told that how. If they are not using, if they are using a cloth bag, then a research showed that before discarding that cloth bag, you need to use it 700 times. And then you discard it. If you are able to do that, that means you are contributing to reducing this problem of climate change. And when the child starts believing that, when the learner starts believing that, he's encouraged to do more. It is all about encouragement and telling the students that start small. No matter, even if the action is small, it has to be impactful. And then we, of course, have to substantiate it with success stories of people who have been doing the same thing over and over and over again for years together, and how it has impacted their community. And when they see those success stories, they will start having the belief in themselves that, yes, one day I will see the change or a positive impact of my actions that I've started taking 2 years back, or just 2 days back, or just 2 minutes back. And I think that is what matters.
Yeah, little by little by Maria, I see it. You unmuted if you want to.
Yeah, I agree with Anjum. I mean, it was surprised me when we were talking about this with my student, and one of them say yes, at home in Brazil we have solar panels. I said, wow. And then others as well were about the Amazonia and deforestation. So, and yes, and start from our side, like here there are a lot of volunteers jobs to clean the canals and to recycle as well the rubbish. One of my students say, but here in the school we don't recycle, and she was right, and say, you are right, I will send out an email and propose that idea. So they are more aware sometimes than us, but they have to know how to do it. So yeah, let's start by doing these small things. Do not use, for example, electricity if you don't need the light. Switch on the lights if you have the light from the window, for example, the solar or the sunlight, or about throwing away things or donate clothes if you don't use. Or there are a lot of second-hand shop as well here. I think just we need to know and let the student know as well that with the small actions we can make a huge difference and a huge impact as well.
Right. So really just highlighting and demonstrating just the small actions and accumulating, like as a whole group, if a whole class were to take those small actions, that does add up, and perhaps even visually representing that in a way and showing the students that accumulation of effect that a group can have.
Yes, I would like to cite an example here, Dylan. So recently we did a community outreach program wherein the students identified that what are the ways in which we are creating waste through our leisure activities like having a meal at a restaurant. And when they started researching on it, they tried to identify ways in which we are a part of the problem rather than being a part of the solution. And then they said, while at home, we have our chapati, our rice, our dal, our sabzi, everything in one plate. The moment I go to a restaurant, why do I want a side plate to keep my bread? And they actually started asking the customers over there. They started asking the waiters over there, and they said, yes, that's true. People do demand for luxury the moment they enter the restaurants. A week later, after the 20 students who were part of this community outreach program, they came up to me and said that, teacher, we have stopped asking for a side plate in the restaurant, because they realized that if I ask for a side plate, the more water will be used to wash them. So how it is also, resulting into more use of water. And when they're able to see this chain reaction or this dominoes effect, that is when they start thinking. So I think this metacognition is very important.
Yeah. Ilan, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, I think this question is also very important. I mean, like, we live in a time where mental health is very important. We're learning new terms like climate anxiety, and it's true that these social problems can be so daunting, especially presenting them to children. And you always have to ask the question, like, is this appropriate to teach in the classroom? But always, depending on how it's presented, the answer is yes. We don't want to lie. We don't want to hide the truth from our students. And I think we can all agree that kids, young people, there are so many things that they are born with. I think one is curiosity. I think you can imagine like little kids just asking, like, why? And I think another really strong innate thing that young people and children have is hope. And I think it sort of just disappears as we grow up, unfortunately. But for that reason, I think as teachers, we have to capitalize on the fact that this is the age group that is most hopeful for the future. So we really have to activate that with the way we teach and with our lessons and with the projects that we assign. And yes, the awareness of the realities is quite dark and scary, but we have to bring these two realities, you know, sort of like hand in hand. So, you know, one is the truth that, you know, the world is not so good at the moment, and we really have a lot of work to do. But there's also the truth that everyone on this planet has the ability to make positive change. And those two truths have to be delivered together. It can't just be a teacher sort of presenting the bleakness of the future. The teacher also has to present the ways in which we can, you know, help address these problems. And what's really cool, and, you know, I think we've heard it from everyone here, is that these discussions or these, you know, activities that we do in the school, they ripple outwards in ways that we'll never completely understand. Like, just because a kid is learning about how they can, you know, recycle, or how they can change their electricity consumption at home, like these small things, you know, they ripple outwards to their parents, to their siblings, to their relatives, to maybe the community partners that they're helping out with. Like, you know, it's just amazing what starts from just the change in the mindset of a teacher. So that's why I think our collective hope for everyone here is that, you know, you just join us, join us in teaching in this global competency way, and really, you know, maximize this hope that kids naturally have already. Thank you.
Go ahead, Maria.
May I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah, about what he mentioned about kids, and it's true. I completely agree. My daughter is 6, and she knows perfectly this bin is for glass, this bin is for plastic, this bin is for general waste. I don't know what's happened. There is a huge gap between kids and adults. Something happened in between. Something happened to us as well, I think. Because we know when we are kids what we should do, and then I don't know if we are more aware of how the words work, to be honest, but I think that as a teacher we have to empower our students again. We have to reteach them again that they are able to change the world, they are able to make a huge impact. So they have to come back to their innocence and hope. And yeah, they have to believe again. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, wow. I think that's a great place to end. I would love to keep this conversation going. We somehow are already 22 minutes over what we said we would do, but we have most attendees still here with us. So I think people have been really, really enjoying this. And yeah, I really, really appreciate all of you just sharing your perspective on that. And yeah, for your time here and just encouragement. I feel, I don't know about the attendees. I've seen some people in the chat just expressing their appreciation, and I'm seeing a lot of reactions right now, but I feel very motivated after this. And I think something to stress is that everybody here, we're all connected in this moment right now, and that doesn't have to end. We can lean on each other as educators, even though we're not in the same country, we're not in the same region, we're still all connected, and we are all tied together by this passion for education and for developing the next generation to be globally competent. And so let's stay connected. If you're an educator in the AFS network, we have a separate workplace group for that. We post various opportunities. It's a great way to stay connected in that way. Please use that as a resource. If you're not a part of that network, you can reach out to me individually, and I'm happy to add any educator to that network and stay connected. Well, great. I'm going to just wrap up really quickly. A couple things to share just before we end here. But once again, thank you so much to our panelists here. Thank you, Maria, Ilan, and Anjum. Just from the reactions here and from people in the chat, it just seems like people have really enjoyed this, and I know I have. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you to all the educators here in attendance. You do not get enough recognition as you should, and so thank you to everybody here, and we hope you, like Ilan opened, we hope you're doing something for yourself as well. Take some time for yourself. Okay, some opportunities here. We AFS is partnered with an organization called Global Cities recently, and there is a workshop we'd like to let you know about. There is something called a code book for global student learning outcomes. It's a toolkit, it's a resource available for teachers around the world. And there is a workshop available for teachers. If you are interested in continuing to develop your skills and learning more about how you can integrate global competency into your current teaching, this could be a great opportunity. I will share a link for this Global Cities event in the chat right now. So feel free to enroll for this if you are interested. That would be December 5th and 6th. So one opportunity there. Another thing, another big thing we would like to share, as Ilan shared earlier, there is an AFS Youth Assembly. There is an educator-specific path for those educators 32 years or younger. So if you do qualify, we highly encourage you to consider applying to be a part of this. And if you're not an educator, there are other ways to attend. And even if you are not accepted into the educator path, you are still able to attend the session if you would like to. So please consider reaching out or applying for the AFS Youth Assembly. Great opportunity to connect with young people all around the world. And with that, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate you being here. This is the second to last session for the International Education Week webinar series by AFS. There's one more later this afternoon. And so we hope to see you there. But thank you all for joining us. And with that, I will end the session. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.